자, 어제는 캐쳐 인더 라이 읽다가 그 업무 전화가 와가지고 다 못 읽고 끝냈습니다. 근데 거의 마지막 챕터로 달려가고 있는데 굉장히 좋은 소설이라고 하는데 뭐 아직까지 감정이입이 안 돼서 그런가 잘 모르겠어요. 근데 뭐 몇 번 더 읽어볼 생각입니다. 몇 번 더 읽어볼 생각이고 학원에 있는 책들 다 읽어야 되는데 짬내서 읽기에는 이 책이 많네요. 그래도 뭐 하다 보면 다 읽겠죠. 예. 아니 하는 것보다는 하는 게 낫고 포기하는 것보다는 쉬어가는 게 낫습니다. 쉬는 한이 있어도 포기하지는 않는다. 자, 어제 읽던 거에 이어서 읽어보겠습니다. Catcher in the Rye. I horsed around with the two of them a little bit. The mummies? Where are they? I asked the one kid. You know, the mummies. Them dead guys. That get buried in them tombs and all. 애너를 엄청 많이 쓰네. You know, the mummies, them dead guys, that get buried in them tombs and all. Tombs, that killed me. He meant tombs. How come you two guys aren't in school? I said. No school today. The kid that did all the talking said. He was lying. Sure, as I'm alive, the little bastard. I didn't have anything to do though, till old Phoebe showed up. So I helped them find the place where the mummies were. Boy, I used to know exactly where they were. But I hadn't been in that museum in years. You two guys are so interested in mummies? I said, yeah. Can't your friends talk? I said. He ain't my friend, he's my brother. Can't he talk? I looked at the one that wasn't doing any talking. Can't you talk at all? I asked him. Yeah, he said. I don't feel like it. Finally, we found the place where the mummies were and we went in. You know how the Egyptians buried their dead? I asked the one kid. Nah. Well, you should. It's very interesting. They wrapped their faces up in these clothes that were created with some secret chemical. That way, they could be buried in their tombs for thousands of years, and their faces wouldn't rot or anything. Nobody knows how to do it except the Egyptians. Even more than science. To get to where the mummies were, you had to go down this very narrow sort of hall with the stones on the side that they'd taken right out of this Pharaoh's tomb and all. It was pretty spooky, and you could tell the two hot shots I was with weren't enjoying it too much. They stuck close as help to me, and the one that didn't talk at all practically was holding onto my sleeve. Let's go, he said to his brother. I seen them already. Come on, hey. He turned around and did it. He's got a yellow streak a mile wide. The other one said, so long. He bit it too. I was the only one left in the tomb then. I sort of liked it in a way. It was just so nice and peaceful. Then, all of a sudden, you'd never guess what I saw on the wall. Another fuck you. It was written with a red crayon or something right under the glass part of the wall, under the stones. That's the whole trouble. You can't ever find a place that's nice and peaceful, because there isn't any. You may think there is, but once you get there, when you're not looking, somebody will sneak up and write a fuck you right under your nose. Try sometimes. I think even if I ever die and they stick me in a cemetery and I have a tombstone and all, it will say Holden Caulfield on it, and then what year I was born and what year I died, and then right under that it will say fuck you. I'm positive, in fact. After I came out of the place where the mummies were, I had to go to the bathroom. I sort of had a diarrhea. If you wanted to know the truth, I didn't mind the diarrhea part too much. But something else happened when I was coming out of the can. Right before I got to the door, I sort of passed out. I was lucky though. I mean, I could have killed myself when I hit the floor, but all I did was sort of land on my side. It was a funny thing, though. I felt better after I passed out. I really did. My arm sort of hurt from where I fell, but I didn't feel so damn dizzy anymore. It was about 10 after 12 or so then, and so I went back and stood by the door and waited for old Phoebe. I thought how it might be the last time I'd ever see her again. And of my relatives, I mean, I figured I'd probably see them again, but not for years. I might come home when I was about 35. I figured in case somebody got sick and wanted to see me before they died, but that would be the only reason I'd leave my cabin and come back. I even started picturing how it would be when I came back. I knew my mother got nervous as hell and start to cry and beg me to stay home and not go back to my cabin. But I'd go anyway. I'd be casual as hell. I'd make her calm down. And then I'd go over to the other side of the living room and take out this cigarette case and light a cigarette, cool as all hell. I'd ask them all to visit me sometime if they wanted to, but I wouldn't insist or anything. What I'd do, I'd let old Phoebe come out and visit me in the summertime and on Christmas vacation and Easter vacation. And I'd let DB come out and visit me for a while if he wanted a nice quiet place for his writing. But he couldn't write any movies in my cabin, only stories and books. I'd have this rule that nobody could do anything funny when they visited me. If anybody tried to do anything funny, they couldn't stay. All of a sudden, I looked at the clock in the check room, and it was 25 of 1. I began to get scared that maybe that old lady in the school had told that other lady not to give old Phoebe my message. I began to get scared that maybe she'd told her to burn it or something. It really scared the hell out of me. I really wanted to see old Phoebe before I hit the road. I mean, I had her Christmas doll and all. Finally, I saw her. I saw her through the glass part of the door. The reason I saw her, she had my crazy hunting hat on. You could see that hat about 10 miles away. I went out the doors and started down these stone stairs to meet her. The thing I couldn't understand, she had this big suitcase with her. She was just coming across Fifth Avenue, and she was dragging this goddamn big suitcase with her. She could hardly drag it. When I got up closer, I saw it was my old suitcase, the one I used to use when I was at Witten. I couldn't figure out what the hell she was doing with it. Hi, she said when she got up close. She was all out of breath from that crazy suitcase. I thought maybe you weren't coming. I said, what the hell's in that bag? I don't need anything. I'm just going the way I am. I'm not even taking the bags I got at the station. What the hell you got in there? She put the suitcases down. My clothes, my clothes, my clothes. She said, I'm going with you. Can I? Okay. What? I said. I almost fell over when she said that. I swear to God I did. I got sort of dizzy and I thought I was going to pass out or something again. I took them down the back elevator so Callie wouldn't see me. It isn't heavy. All I have in it is 2 dresses and my moccasins and my underwear and socks and some other things. Feel it. It isn't heavy. Feel it once. Can't I go with you? Holden? Can't I? Please. No, shut up. I thought I was going to pass out a cold. I didn't mean to tell her to shut up at all, but I thought I was going to pass out again. Why can't I? Please, Holden, I won't do anything. I'll just go with you. That's all. I won't even take my clothes with me if you don't want me to. I'll just take mine. You can't take anything because you are not going. I'm going alone, so shut up. Please, Holden, please let me go. I'll be very, very, very. You won't even. You're not going. Now shut up. Give me that bag. I said. I took the bag off her. I was almost all set to hit her. I thought I was going to smack her for a second. I really did. She started to cry. I thought you were supposed to be in a play at school and all. I thought you were supposed to be in a play at school and all. I thought you were supposed to be Benedict Arnold in that play and all. I said. I said it very nasty. Would ya want to? Would ya? Would ya? Would ya? Would you want to do? Would you want to do? Not be in the play? For God's sake! That made her cry even harder. I was glad. All of a sudden, I wanted her to cry till her eyes practically dropped out. I almost hated her. I think I hated her most because she wouldn't be in that play anymore if she went away with me. Come on, I said. I started up the steps to the museum again. I figured what I'd do was I'd check the crazy suitcase she'd brought in the check room, and then she could get it again at 3 o'clock after school. I knew she couldn't take it back to school with her. Come on now, I said. She didn't go up the steps with me though. She wouldn't. She wouldn't. She was still standing there on the sidewalk, but she turned her back on me when I came up to her. She can do that. She can turn her back on you when she feels like it. I'm not going away anywhere. I changed my mind, so stop crying and shut up, I said. The funny part was she wasn't even crying when I said that. I said it anyway, though. Come on now. I'll walk you back to school. Come on now. You'll be late. She wouldn't answer me or anything. I sort of tried to get hold of her old hand, but she wouldn't let me. She kept turning around on me. Did you have your lunch? You had your lunch yet? I asked her. She wouldn't answer me. All she did was she took off my red hunting hat and the one I gave her and practically chucked it right in my face. Then she turned her back on me again. It nearly killed me, but I didn't say anything. I just picked it up and stuck in my coat pocket. Come on, hey, I'll walk you back to school, I said. I'm not going back to school. I didn't know what to say when she said that. I just stood there for a couple of minutes. You have to go back to school. You want to be in that play, don't you? You want to be Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold, don't you? No. Sure you do. Certainly you do. Come on now. Let's go, I said. In the first place, I'm not going away anywhere. I told you. I'm going home. I'm going home as soon as you go back to school. First, I'm gonna go down to the station and get my bags, and then I'm gonna go straight. I said I'm not going back to school. You can. Uh, so shut up. It was the first time she ever told me to shut up. First, I'm gonna go down to the station and get my bags, and then I'm gonna go straight. I said I'm not going back to school. You can do what you want to do, but I'm not going back to school, she said. So, shut up. It was the first time she ever told me to shut up. It sounded terrible. God, it sounded terrible. It sounded worse than swearing. She still wouldn't look at me either, and every time I sort of put my hands on her shoulder or something, she wouldn't let me. Listen, do you want to go for a walk? I asked her. Do you want to take a walk down to the zoo? If I let you not go back to school this afternoon and go for a walk, will you cut out this crazy stuff? She wouldn't answer me, so I said it over again. If I let you skip your school this afternoon and go for a little walk, will you cut out the crazy stuff? Will you go back to school tomorrow like a good girl? I may and I may not, she said. Then she ran right the hell across the street, without even looking to see if any cars were coming. She's mad at me sometimes. I didn't follow her though. I knew she'd follow me, so I started walking downtown toward the zoo on the park side of the street. And she started walking downtown on the other goddamn side of the street. She wouldn't look over at me at all, but I could tell she was probably watching me out of the corner of her crazy eye to see where I was going and all. Anyway, we kept walking that way all the way to the zoo. The only thing that bothered me was when a double decker bus came along because then I couldn't see across the street and I couldn't see where the hell she was. But when we got to the zoo, I yelled over to her, Phoebe, I'm going in the zoo. Come on now. She wouldn't look at me, but I could tell she heard me. And when I started down the steps to the zoo, I turned around and saw she was crossing the street and following me and all. There weren't too many people in the zoo because it was a sort of a lousy day, but there were a few around the sea lions swimming pool and all. I started to go by, but old Phoebe stopped and made out she was watching the sea lions getting fat. A guy was throwing fish at them. So I went back. I figured it was a good chance to catch up with her and all. I went up and sort of stood behind her and sort of put my hands on her shoulders. But she bent her knees and slid out from me. She can certainly be very snotty when she wants to. She kept standing there while the sea lions were getting fed and I stood right behind her. I didn't put my hands on her shoulders again or anything, because if I had, she really would have beat it on me. Kids are funny. You have to watch what you're doing. She wouldn't walk right next to me when we left the sea lions, but she didn't walk too far away. She sort of walked on one side of the sidewalk, and I walked on the other side. It wasn't too gorgeous, but it was better than having her walk a mile away from me, like before. We went up and watched the bears on that little hill for a while. But there wasn't much to watch, only one of the bears was out, the polar bear. The other one, the brown one, was in his goddamn cave and wouldn't come out. All you could see was his rear end. There was a little kid standing next to me with a cowboy hat on practically over his ears, and he kept telling his father, Make him come out, Daddy, make him come out. I looked at old Phoebe, but she wouldn't laugh. You know, kids, when they are sore at you, they won't laugh or anything. After we left the bears, we left the zoo and crossed over this little street in the park. And then we went through one of those little tunnels that always smell from somebody's taking a leak. It was on the way to the carousel. Old Phoebe still wouldn't talk to me anything, but she was sort of walking next to me now. I took a hold of the belt at the back of her coat, just for the hell of it, but she wouldn't let me. She said, Keep your hand to yourself, if you don't mind. she was still sore at me, but not as sore as she was before. Anyway, we kept getting closer and closer to the carousel, and you could start to hear that nutty music it always plays. It was playing. Oh, Mary, it played that same song about 50 years ago when I was a little kid. That's one nice thing about the carousels. They always play the same songs. I thought the carousel was closed in the winter time. Old Phoebe said it was the first time she practically said anything. She probably forgot she was supposed to be sore at me. Maybe because it's around Christmas, I said. She didn't say anything when I said that. She probably remembered she was supposed to be sore at me. Do you want to go for a ride on it? I said. I knew she probably did. Go for a ride on it. When she was a tiny little kid and Ellie and Dibby and I used to go to the park with her, she was mad about the carousel. You couldn't get her off the goddamn thing. I'm too big, she said. I thought she wasn't going to answer me, but she did. No, you're not. Go on. I'll wait for you. Go on, I said. We were right there then. There were a few kids riding on it, mostly very little kids, and a few parents were waiting around outside, sitting on the benches and all. What I did was, I went up to the window where they sell the tickets and bought old Phoebe a ticket. Then I gave it to her. She was standing right next to me. Here, I said. Wait a second. Take the rest of your dough too. I started giving her the rest of the dough she'd lent me. You keep it for me, she said. Then she said right afterward, please somebody, that depressed the hell out of me, but I put the dough back in my pocket. Aren't you gonna ride too? She asked me. She was looking at me, sort of funny. You could tell she wasn't too sore at me anymore. Maybe I'll be the next time. I'll watch you, I said. Got your ticket? Yes, go ahead then. I'll be on this bench right over here. I'll watch you. I went over and sat down on this bench, and she went and got on the carousel. She walked all around it. I mean, she walked once all the way around it, then she sat down on this big, brown, beat-up looking old horse. Then the carousel started, and I watched her go round and round. There were only about 5 or 6 other kids on the ride. And the song the carousel was playing was Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. It was playing it very jazzy and funny. All the kids kept trying to grab for the gold ring, and so was old Phoebe. And I was sort of afraid she'd fall off the goddamn horse, but I didn't say anything or do anything.